All right, let's talk about Annie Anderson a little bit. I'm going to start out, let's start with the endings, right? It's the same all the way through. The ending's always the same all the way through. Now this one ends a little bit differently than have we ended our other marches historically, in that we are going to pop beat 2 at the end of the ending, right? So that last measure, we are going to have a pretty decent accent on that last left hand to give it a nice pop. The only exception to that is, I believe, in the 4th part, because then on the upbeat right-handed flam, we're going to accent that. Otherwise, we want to make sure and do that, right? Keep that singles run nice and even and low going into it, but then pop that ending. All right, so the 3rd measure, the measure right before that, we do want to make sure and accentuate both the flam and the 3-stroke going in, right? Okay, and then after that 3-stroke, we're down nice low volume, only coming up on the next downbeat. Try not to give too much weight to that drag. I am okay with a little bit more weight than, it doesn't have to be the smallest part of that lick. Let's not give it too much, but a little bit is okay. Right? I'd say make sure that coming off of that drag, we are hitting right into that single. It is right on the upbeat, but that should be really close to that drag. No separation there. Okay, so other than that, other notes in the first part. There is a little bit more weight on beat 2 throughout the first 2 bars of this tune, right? Both of those beats, those second beats in each of those first 2 bars, has a little bit more weight than maybe we typically do. I really want to set up that idiom, that solid tempo right there through the first 2 bars, so that it's obvious what our tempo is, right? So do allow yourself to give a little bit of weight to both of those left hands, which are falling right on beat 2. Right? Then into that 3rd bar, don't think that there's anything too tricky about that. We just got to be careful about our roll endings. I mean, that's a very intricate part right there. Right? And then that Swiss triplet, I'm okay if it grows a slight bit throughout that Swiss triplet. Right? So that we do come out nice and solid on that left-hand flam. I kind of like that slight crescendo from a piano up to a not-so-mezzo there. Right? So that whole first line. Okay, one more time. Ready, and go. In the second line, we just got to be careful of this, that first phrase into that second line. I don't want to crush that cheese up. Make sure that it's nice and open, and that might mean we want to keep the grace note out in front of it a little bit too. Not so, you got to avoid making that thing sound crushed. One more time, and go, and. Okay, let's look at the second part. I don't think there's too much that's too tricky in it. I think the real key to this is remembering how it goes into it. I always have a tendency to forget this 5-stroke roll going in. Otherwise, I think the only other key part to this first little phrase is coming out of that left-hand tiz at the very end of the first measure, so that we can get into that singles run in the second bar exactly on time, right? Right? I think we changed that, didn't we? I'm looking at an old copy. Oh, I think I went on the third part there. Try it again. Ready, and go. Okay, I don't think there's too much more to touch in that part. Just when we do the second time through, that second ending, same comment as in the second line of the tune. Keep that cheese nice and wide open. Okay, third part, probably the most tricky and hands intensive. We all know about this first phrase. We want to keep these first two tizzes nice and quiet. The second set of tizzes, we can pop the ends just a bit, and then we crescendo up through the flammadiddle into the next downbeat, right? Ready, and go. Critical to maintain those singles in between these tizzes, nice and open, right? Nice and open on those singles, and stretch those tizzes so they're nice wide open dot cuts. I think I've said it a million times, the key to getting the fourth and fifth bars of this part is making sure we precisely end that last tiz in the fourth bar so that we can get a good set of singles right on that fifth bar. Then keeping the trislets low so that we can keep that a very succinct buzz in those trislets, right? Okay, and then make sure and stretch those tizzes on either side of those trislets so that we get that effect that we really want. That one, right? Let's do that whole part. Ready, and go. Right? Fourth part, big intro, small three-stroke. Now when I say small three-stroke, not so small you can't execute it. Just small in comparison to the flam, and it shouldn't, like, no one should ever say, oh, that was a loud three-stroke. No. Keep those doubles nice and open in both of those movements. Big. So then through the fifth and sixth bars, I think as we have that decrescendoed singles run, that one feels like we really need to keep it open. It would be super easy to accelerate that down. Got to keep those singles really open, especially towards the top of that dynamic passage. Right? Then going into the second ending, once again, keep this cheese right at the front end really nice and open. And we can afford to crescendo this Swiss triplet just a tiny bit again. It's kind of the same lick as we had up in the first part. Let's try the whole fourth part, just second time through. Ready, and go. Good. Have fun.